I've had a few comments about doing the full back glass and how I prep it for shrinking. So the first thing that I do, spray it down, get a white scrub pad, and clean the whole outside. Now let me preface this by saying this isn't the only way to do it, nor am I saying this is the best way. This is just how I do it. So once it's all clean, I'm going to squeegee all that water off and make sure the back window's clean. That way there's no debris transfer onto the outside of the film that can cause any sort of scratching as it moves around. Now, I just use a basic bar of ivory soap. You can get it at any Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, and just give it a light misting to the back glass. And then take this bar of soap and just rub it on the whole thing and kind of rub it in with your hands to even it out. That way you don't have thick spots on there. And then all you got to do is sit back, let it dry. I usually prep the side windows while I'm waiting. Give it a quick wipe with your hand to make sure everything's dried off. If it's still wet, the film will stick to it, and the combination of a kind of a wet and dry situation is cause for disaster. Next, you're going to grab your film, line it up, and then this is where it gets important. You're going to make an H pattern. You're going to squeegee it evenly on this vehicle, across the middle, and then top to bottom on the sides, which kind of gives you that H pattern I was talking about. Now, just for reference, this is a 2022 Chrysler 300S. Now, when you begin shrinking the film, you have to understand that the film is only going to shrink in one direction, and that's going to be towards the factory cut edge of the roll. If you try to shrink it on the other sides, the left and right in this case, it's just going to crease up and pinch, and it won't shrink down properly. Now, for it to be able to shrink, you want those fingers, which are kind of like the spikes that come up from the bottom of the film, you want those to be pointing up and down the window. If they're sideways, again, it's going to pinch because it's trying to shrink it the wrong direction. So you adjust as needed, shrink a little bit at a time, and then squeegee it down. Now, I don't use a hard card or a normal squeegee. I actually use this felt pad, which is usually sold as a vinyl wrapping tool, but that's a little less harsh than a hard card and a little bit more forgiving, so whenever you're squeegeeing it up, the less chances of creasing the film, especially if there's an area that hadn't been shrunk completely yet. Now you can see with the lighting here, as I evenly heat the top of this film, it's almost laying down completely flat to where you don't even have to apply that much pressure to push those wrinkles out. So what you're really looking for is almost like ocean waves. As the film shrinks, the fingers are going to go from vertical, and it's going to kind of wrinkle it left to right, and that's how you know it's time to squeegee up the film. You can do a little at a time, a lot at a time. I prefer to kind of do about 5 or 6 inches at once. It's a little bit more, again, more forgiving if you can do more of a section at one time because you're not forcing the film down into one spot and it's more free floating in that dry shrink method. So we've just got this last section here. We'll hit this real quick and then we'll go to cleaning and prepping the inside. Now we are going to be doing a reverse roll on this. Since this back glass is kind of all one piece, there's no third brake light or anything we need to worry about. It's going to make it a lot easier for installation, especially being one person. So we're just taking the film, transferring it over to the glass, and going to start prepping the inside of the glass for installation. Now, one thing I do want to mention for any new people out here who are looking at this, whenever you're shrinking that on the glass, you're putting the tint side of the film on the glass and the backing paper facing out. That's because once you transfer to the inside of the glass, the adhesive is going to be facing the correct direction. So we're just going to clean the outside of that back window. That way, whenever we're cleaning the inside, we can see if there's any debris or any stickers or anything left behind whenever we're cleaning that we can get off without thinking that it's on the outside of the glass. So this is going to be pretty typical of a standard tint installation for any window, but we'll go over the details. We're going to spray our slip solution. We're going to use our white scrub pad. I like to clean, as always, in 2 directions. So I go top to bottom first, left to right next to kind of push the dirt to the outside, and then give it a wipe all the way around the outside and push any dirt that might be there all to one corner. I don't know if this makes a huge difference, but again, this is just my style and how I like to do it. Now we're going to squeegee all the glass. And then for the bottom of the glass, we're going to use our auto bulldozer, and this is good for those hard to reach places. One thing that's tough about these Chrysler 300s is there is a seal right at the base of the glass there where that rear deck pushes up against it, and it really makes it difficult for the film to slide in there. Also, when cleaning, you want to make sure you get that flushed out pretty well so that there's no dirt or anything that gets sucked up into the film. But this vehicle is already pretty clean, so I wasn't too worried about that. Now with this method, this is the reverse roll. So we've got our backing facing out. We're going to peel it back, but leave it attached. So we're going to spray all the adhesive, we're going to spray the liner, and then stick it back on there very lightly. This is going to allow the water to stay on the film when we start applying it, so it doesn't stick right away. So then we get to the other side, we want to make sure every inch of this adhesive has slip solution on it. Otherwise, if there's any dry spots, it's going to stick to the glass right away. Now I've already applied the slip solution to the inside of the glass, but we'll hit it again before we apply the film. Now this next step is very critical. It can make things a lot easier or a lot more difficult. We're going to roll this into a very tight roll, again with the liner facing us. If you go too loose, it actually makes it more difficult because where you shrink the film, it's going to kind of bunch up. Now see, I actually have the film upside down, so what you're looking at the top edge is actually the bottom of the glass. You want that to be as straight as possible. And if there's any kind of, I'll say, accordion to it, you want that to be sticking out of the top. Because if you think about how the film unrolls, if you roll it at the incorrect angle, it's going to want to roll into the base of the glass, which isn't possible because clearly there's no room there. So we're going to start unrolling the film with the adhesive exposed, and that liner is now on the other side of the film. So we're going to stick our bottom corner first. We got about 8 inches there unrolled, and we're going to try and get it lined up as best we can. Now, you can't put it all the way down into the bottom of the glass because there is that rubber seal there. So I don't want the top to touch the headliner and get any dirt from it, so I'm keeping that hanging a little bit loose. I'll continually rub my hand on there to keep it up against the glass, especially at the base. And then when I get to the last 7 or 8 inches or so, I'll remove that liner and make sure the film kind of rolls in on itself and doesn't touch anything, so it's not picking up dirt or debris. And then this, now that it's on there, it's going to be a very clean install, and I have an opportunity to adjust the film as needed to make sure it's in the right place. All right, now that we've got the film all lined up, we're ready to squeegee all the water out. So we're going to do kind of a British flag pattern is how I learned it. So we're going to go left to right in the middle, and then top to bottom in kind of a plus symbol. I did it a little bit differently this time, but you're kind of squeegeeing out at a 45-degree angle and pushing everything out to the corners. So that's going to push any water out, any dirt and debris that might have gotten in there, and then make sure that we don't have any wrinkles or any bubbles, any fingers, anything like that. So I always get the middle and top first, and then come back with that bulldozer, and we're going to get the bottom of the film. The first pass is a little light, just getting all the water out and making sure everything's in place. And then once all that's squeegeed, I hit it one more time with a more aggressive squeegee with the orange crush as far down as I can reach, and then go all the way back up to the top. And we're going to hit that bottom again with the auto bulldozer. Now we're going to get out, take a look, and see if there's any air bubbles or anything that we might have missed. A lot easier to see from the outside than the inside. And I can see here in the bottom corners where it was real tight, there's still a little bit of air and water that needs to be pushed out. And that bulldozer just really doesn't get in there. So I've got this little foot tool here that's going to get in a little bit tighter spaces and be able to push that out. It's more like a long hard card to get those hard to reach places. And that's it. If you guys have any questions or anything else you want to see, just drop it in the comments and we'll put it up for you.